Welcome to the Oracle's Rest, a place where stories unfold slowly, where time softens, and where the mind is free to wander. Tonight, we follow a single set of paw prints across fresh snow, out past the last farm, past the last road, into the quiet blue hour before dawn, where a wolf moves without hurry through the trees. Tonight, we drift into the calm and gentle world of wolves, their pack life, their long, low howls, their warm, hidden dens, their small, blind pups, the soft rhythm of a wolf's day, which is slower and quieter than most people ever imagine. Because when people picture a wolf, they often picture teeth. They picture the wolf of old stories, the shadow at the edge of the firelight, the creature that circles the sheep pen in winter. But the real wolf, the wolf that actually lives out in the forests and tundra and mountains of the world, spends most of its life doing something far gentler, resting, traveling slowly, lying in the sun, watching over pups, sleeping curled against the bodies of its family through the long cold night. A wolf sleeps a great deal on an ordinary day. A wolf may spend many hours simply lying down, dozing, waiting, letting the world pass by. They are not creatures of constant motion. They move when they need to move, and the rest of the time they rest deeply, often curled into a tight circle, with the nose tucked beneath the tail. That curl is not only for comfort, it is for warmth. By pulling the body into a small round shape, the wolf keeps its most delicate parts, the nose and the paws and the belly, protected from the cold. The thick fur of the back and sides becomes a blanket wrapped around everything soft and warm inside. And that fur is one of the quiet marvels of the wolf. In winter, a wolf wears two coats at once. Underneath lies a dense layer of soft, insulating fur, almost like wool, that traps warm air close to the skin. Over that grows a longer layer of coarse guard hairs that shed snow and rain and block the wind. Together, these two layers are so effective that a wolf can lie down comfortably in temperatures far Below freezing, snow can fall on a resting wolf and simply sit there on the outer fur without melting, because so little body heat escapes through the coat. The wolf lies beneath its dusting of snow, warm as a banked fire, and sleeps. The paws, too, are built for the cold. A wolf's paw is wide and spreads as it presses into the snow, working almost like a snowshoe, keeping the animal from sinking as it walks across drifts that would swallow a smaller creature. And within those paws runs a clever system of blood flow that keeps the pads warm enough to never freeze, even as the wolf stands on ice. Warm blood flowing down toward the foot passes close to the cooler blood flowing back up, and it shares its heat along the way, so that very little warmth is lost to the frozen ground. The wolf can walk all night across a frozen lake and never feel the ache of cold feet. It is a small, quiet piece of engineering hidden inside every step. Now, picture the pack itself. For a long time, people believed a wolf pack was a group of unrelated wolves locked in a constant struggle for dominance, ruled by a fierce alpha who fought its way to the top. But this picture, it turns out, was mostly a mistake, drawn from wolves kept together in captivity, strangers forced into an enclosure. In the wild, the truth is far softer. A wolf pack is a family. It is, almost always, simply a mother and a father and their children, and sometimes children from an earlier year who have not yet left home. The two adults at the center of the pack are not tyrants who fought for power. They are parents. The pack follows them the way a family follows its mother and father, not out of fear, but because that is simply how a family moves through the world together. This changes everything about how we see them. The wolf standing at the front of the traveling line is not a conqueror. It is a parent leading its children across the land it knows. The younger wolves are not rivals waiting to seize control. They are sons and daughters growing up slowly, learning the territory, learning to hunt, learning the songs of their family, before the day comes when they will wander off to start families of their own, and a wolf family is a tender thing. Wolves greet one another with enormous warmth. When a wolf returns to the pack after time away, the others crowd around it, wagging their tails low and fast, licking its muzzle, pressing their bodies close, whining softly with what can only be called joy. This greeting is one of the most important moments in a wolf's day. It renews the bonds that hold the family together. It is a small daily ceremony of belonging, repeated again and again, a way of saying we are still one thing, still here, still together. They play too, and not only the pups, grown wolves play. They chase one another through the snow. They bow down on their front legs with their back ends up in the air. The same play bow a dog makes when it wants a game. And then they leap away and tumble and pounce. They toss sticks and bones into the air and catch them. They roll on their backs in the snow simply because it feels good. A wolf at ease, safe within its family and its territory, is a creature very much at play, and there is nothing frightening about it at all. But of all the things a wolf does, the one that has always reached deepest into the human heart is the howl. On a still night, when the air is cold and clear, a wolf lifts its head, points its nose toward the sky, and lets out a long rising note that carries for miles across the dark land. In open country, a howl can travel 6 miles, 10 miles, sometimes farther, rolling over hills and across frozen lakes, fading and returning as an echo. And often it does not come alone. One wolf begins, and then another joins, and then another, each on a slightly different note, so that the sounds weave together into a chorus that seems far larger than the small number of animals actually singing. Wolves howl for many reasons, and almost none of them are frightening. They howl to find one another. When the pack has scattered across the woods, a wolf separated from its family will howl and listen and howl again, following the answering voices home. Through the darkness, they howl to remind neighboring packs where the borders of the territory lie. A way of saying, gently but clearly, this valley is ours. There is no need to come closer. We are here. And they howl it seems, simply for the pleasure of howling together, the way people sing. A group howl often begins, for no clear reason at all, sweeps through the whole pack in a wave of sound, and then dies away. And afterward, the wolves seem calmer, closer, more at ease with one another, as though the singing itself had done them good. Each wolf has its own voice. The howls differ from one animal to the next, in pitch and in shape, so that wolves can recognize one another by sound alone. Across great distances in the dark, a mother can pick out the voice of her own pack from a stranger's. A wandering wolf can know from a single far-off note whether the voice belongs to family or to strangers whose land it should avoid. The night is full of these messages, drifting on the cold air, understood by ears far sharper than our own. For a wolf hears the world in extraordinary detail. Its hearing reaches into ranges far beyond what people can perceive, catching the high, thin sounds of a mouse moving beneath the snow, or a distant howl too faint for any human to notice. And its sense of smell is more remarkable still. A wolf's nose is many thousands of times more sensitive than ours. It reads the air the way we read a page. A single breath tells the wolf who has passed this way, how long ago, whether they were healthy or weak, frightened or calm, and in which direction they were traveling. The forest that looks so empty and silent to us is, to a wolf, a rich and crowded story written in scent, layered and detailed and constantly changing. Wolves use scent to speak to one another, and to mark the edges of their world along the boundaries of the territory. The pack leaves its scent at regular points on stumps and rocks and tufts of grass, a fence made not of wood but of smell. When another wolf passes and reads these marks, it learns that the land ahead is claimed, and most of the time it simply turns aside. This quiet system of scent borders means that wolves, despite their fearsome reputation, actually spend a great deal of effort avoiding conflict. Fighting is dangerous. A serious wound can mean death for an animal that must run to eat. So wolves have built a whole language of sound and smell, whose main purpose is to keep the peace, to let neighbors know where they stand without ever having to meet. A wolf's territory can be vast, depending on the land and the season, and the amount of prey. A single pack may range across an area of many hundreds of square miles. Within that great expanse, the wolves travel constantly, following old routes worn smooth by generations, crossing rivers, threading through valleys, climbing ridge lines beneath the moon. A pack may cover many miles in a single night, moving at a steady, tireless, ground-eating trot that they can hold for hours. The wolf is built for exactly this. Long legs, deep chest, narrow body, large lungs and heart. It is a traveler above all else, a creature whose home is not a single den, but an entire landscape held in memory. Every stream and thicket and hilltop known and remembered, and they move through that landscape slowly in the sense that matters. There is no hurry in a wolf's travels. It trots, it pauses, it lifts its nose to test the wind, it investigates a scent, it moves on. The whole pack flows across the land, like water finding its way downhill, unhurried, patient, following the paths of least resistance. On a long winter night, the pack may travel from dusk until dawn, resting when they wish, and then, as the sky pales, they lie down together in the snow to sleep away the bright hours of the day. Let us follow them now into the deep of winter, when the world grows quiet and white and the wolves come most fully into their own. Winter is, in many ways, the wolf's true season. The cold that drives so many creatures into hiding is no trouble to an animal wrapped in a double coat. The snow that slows the deer and the elk to a struggling wade is easy going for the wide-pawed wolf. In the short grey days of deep winter, the wolf moves through a hushed and simplified world, a world of white slopes and black trees and long blue shadows, and it moves through that world with a calm and quiet mastery. Watch a pack cross a frozen valley at dusk. They travel in single file, one behind another, each wolf stepping carefully into the tracks of the one ahead. This is not habit alone, by stepping in one another's prints, the wolves save enormous energy, since only the led animal must break a fresh path through the deep snow. The rest simply follow the pack trail, and when the leader tires, another moves to the front and takes its turn, breaking trail, because they all step so precisely into a single line of tracks. A pack of many wolves crossing a snowfield may leave a trail that looks to a passing eye as though only one wolf has gone by. The whole family passes across the white valley and leaves behind a single quiet line of prints, fading already beneath the falling snow. When they rest together. The pack beds down close, sometimes touching, sharing warmth against the cold. A wolf will scratch a shallow bed in the snow, turn around a time or two the way a dog circles its blanket, and then curl down into it, nose to tail, and let the snow drift over it as it sleeps. Around it lie the others, its parents, its brothers and sisters, all of them curled into the same warm circles, all of them breathing slow in the winter dark. And so the pack sleeps, a ring of warm bodies in a white and frozen world, and the night passes over them without disturbing their rest. Food in winter comes hard, and this too shapes the slow rhythm of the wolf. Wolves are hunters of large animals, of deer and elk and moose, and caribou and bison, animals far larger and heavier than themselves. To bring down such prey, a single wolf can do very little, but a family working together can do a great deal. This, more than anything, is why wolves live in packs at all. A lone wolf might manage to catch a hare or a mouse, but it takes a family moving as one to feed on the great grazing animals that make up the heart of a wolf's diet through the lean months. And yet, for all their skill, wolves fail far more often than they succeed. A hunt is a long, patient, uncertain thing. The pack may test many animals before it finds one it can actually catch. They watch the herd. They move toward it slowly, reading each animal, looking for the one that is old or sick or very young or simply slower than the rest. Most of the animals they approach will run and will outrun them, and the wolves will let them go. Chasing a healthy elk to no purpose only wastes the strength. The wolves cannot spare, so they choose carefully, and most of their hunts end not in a kill, but in the herd bounding away unharmed, while the wolves stand and watch and then turn to look for another chance. This careful choosing has a strange and gentle consequence for the world around the wolves, because they so often take the weakest animals, the old and the ailing and the injured. Wolves shape the herds they hunt in ways that ripple outward for miles. When wolves were returned to one great northern park after being gone for many years, the change they brought was so large that scientists are still describing it. The deer and elk, no longer able to stand grazing lazily in the open, began to move more to avoid the soft valleys and open riverbanks where wolves could catch them easily. And in the places the grazers now avoided, young trees that had been nibbled to nothing for decades finally began to grow. Willows and aspens rose along the streams. Birds returned to nest in the new branches. Beavers, finding wood to build with, came back and raised their dams. And the ponds behind those dams made homes for fish and frogs and otters. Even the rivers themselves changed course, their banks held firm now by the roots of the returning trees. All of this from the quiet presence of wolves, a single family of hunters moving slowly through a valley, choosing carefully which animals to follow, had reached out and touched the trees and the birds and the beavers and the very shape of the flowing water. The wolf, it turns out, is not a destroyer of the wild, but one of the threads that holds it together, a keystone at the center of the arch, quietly keeping everything else in its place. But let us leave the hunt and the winter and follow instead the slow turning of the year towards spring. For spring is when the softest chapter of a wolf's life begins, as the snow starts to soften and the days grow longer. The mother wolf goes looking for a den. She may dig one herself into a dry hillside or a bank, above a river, a tunnel leading back to a warm, hidden chamber deep in the earth. Or she may take over an old den used in years before, or a cave, or a hollow beneath the roots of a fallen tree, or a burrow once dug by some other animal and now made her own. Whatever its shape, the den must be dry and hidden and safe. A warm, dark pocket in the world where the most helpless creatures in all the pack will spend their first weeks of life. There, in the spring, the pups are born. A wolf mother carries her young for about 2 months, and then, in the quiet of the den, she gives birth to a small litter, often 4 or 5 or 6 pups, though the number varies from one family to the next. And the pups, when they come, are astonishingly small and helpless. They are born blind, their eyes sealed shut. They are born deaf, their ears closed. They cannot walk. They cannot keep themselves warm. They can do almost nothing at all except press against their mother and nurse and sleep. For these first weeks, the whole enormous world of the wolf narrows down to the warm dark of the den and the soft body of the mother, and nothing else exists. The mother stays with them almost constantly in those early days, curled around them, warming them, keeping them clean, feeding them. She barely leaves. And here the family shows its worth again. For while the mother tends the newborns, the rest of the pack tends the mother, the father and the older brothers, and sisters bring her food, so that she need not leave her pups to hunt. The whole family bends itself, for a while, toward the care of these few blind and helpless creatures in the dark. Every wolf in the pack has a part to play in raising the young, and this shared care is one of the deepest and most tender features of a wolf's life. Slowly, the pups begin to change. After about 2 weeks, their eyes open, and for the first time, a soft blue light reaches them from the mouth of the den, the color of the daylit world they have not yet seen. Their ears open. They begin to hear the sounds of their family, the shuffling and the breathing, and the low greeting whines. They grow steadier on their legs, and then, at around 3 weeks of age, comes one of the small, great moments of the wild. The pups come to the mouth of the den and step out for the very first time into the open air. Imagine that first emergence, a tiny wolf, only 3 weeks old, all soft, dark fur and round belly and unsteady legs, blinking in the enormous light, meeting for the first time the smell of the grass and the trees and the wind, the warmth of the sun. On its back, the whole wide living world that until this moment it had never known. And gathered around to meet it, the whole family, its parents and its older siblings, crowding close, sniffing it over, greeting the small explorer with wagging tails and gentle licks. From the dark of the den into the arms of the family, it is one of the softest beginnings anywhere in nature. From that day, the pups grow quickly, and the mood of the whole pack seems to lift and warm around them. The pups tumble and wrestle and chase one another outside the den in the spring sunshine. They pounce on beetles and feathers and one another's tails. They chew on sticks and bones and the ears of patient older wolves and the grown wolves, even the great tall hunters, become gentle and playful around them, letting the pups climb over them, dragging sticks for the pups to chase, lying still while the little ones scramble across their backs, a wolf pack around its pups. In early summer is not a fearsome thing at all. It is a warm and busy and joyful thing, full of play and patience and care. There is a beautiful custom in the way wolves feed their growing pups. Once the pups are old enough to eat meat but still far too young to travel to a kill, the adults bring the food to them. A hunter returns from the hunt with a full belly, and the pups rush to greet it, licking at its mouth. And in response, the adult brings up some of the meat it has carried home inside itself, a gift of food delivered gently from the parent to the young. In this way, the whole pack feeds the pups, each returning hunter sharing what it has taken, so that the little ones are fed by many mouths and grow strong on the labor of the entire family. As the pups grow through the summer, the pack moves them from the den to what are called rendezvous sites, open resting places, meadows or clearings near water where the pups can play and wait in safety while the adults go off to hunt. These are the wolf's summer nurseries. The pups spend their days at the rendezvous site, sleeping in the tall grass, playing, exploring the nearby woods a little farther each day, and waiting for the adults to return with food. Often a single grown wolf stays behind to watch over them, a babysitter for the day, while the others hunt. And when the hunters come back, the whole site erupts in greeting, the pups mobbing the returning adults, and the quiet meadow fills for a moment with the joyful noise of a reunited family before settling again into its slow summer calm. And through all of this, the pups are learning. They learn the smells of their family and their territory. They learn the calls and the body language of wolves, the play bow and the greeting, and the meaning of a lifted lip or a lowered tail. They begin near the end of summer to join the adults on short travels, learning the routes, learning the land. They learn to howl, and a young wolf's first howls are wobbly and uncertain, breaking and cracking like a young voice, until with practice they steady into the long, clear notes of the adult, everything a wolf must know. To live, it learns slowly, over months, within the patient company of its family. By autumn, the pups are nearly as large as the adults, though still leaner and looser and more playful. And now they travel with the pack in earnest, joining the long night journeys across the territory, learning the hunt not from instinct alone, but by watching again and again how their parents and older siblings move and wait and choose. A young wolf's education is long. It takes a full turning of the seasons and more before a pup becomes a capable adult. And through all that time, the family holds it close, teaches it, feeds it, and keeps it safe. And then, one day, often when it is a year or too old, a young wolf begins to feel the pull of the wider world. It lingers at the edges of the territory. It travels a little farther from the pack, and at last it leaves. This leaving, which scientists call dispersal, is one of the quiet turning points of a wolf's life. The young wolf sets out alone, away from the only family it has ever known, to search for a territory of its own and a mate to share it. It becomes, for a while, a lone wolf. And the lone wolf is one of the most poignant figures in all the wild. A dispersing wolf may travel astonishing distances. Some have been followed across hundreds of miles, over mountain ranges and rivers and highways, through country crowded with dangers, searching for an unclaimed place, and another wolf traveling alone. It is a hard and risky journey. Many do not survive it. But it is also the way new packs are born, the way wolves spread across the land, the way the family renews itself in each generation. For the lone wolf, if it is fortunate, will one day cross paths with another lone wolf traveling on the same lonely errand, and the two will meet and travel together and claim an empty stretch of country and become the mother and father of a new pack, a new family, a new small circle of warm bodies sleeping in the snow. And so the whole thing begins again. The pair finds a territory. In the spring, the mother seeks a den. The pups are born blind and helpless in the warm, dark earth. The family feeds them and tends them and greets them when they first stumble into the light. They grow and play and learn and travel and sing, and one day they too will feel the pull of the wider world and set out alone to begin it all once more. The life of a wolf is a slow circle, turning and turning through the seasons, generation after generation, across the great, quiet landscapes of the northern world. It is worth resting for a while on just how far that world extends. Wolves once ranged across nearly the whole of the northern half of the earth, across the forests and plains and mountains and tundra of 3 great continents. One of the most widely spread land animals anywhere in the world, from the frozen edges of the far north, where wolves, the color of snow, hunt musk oxen, across the Arctic barrens, beneath skies lit by shifting curtains of green light, to the deep forests farther south, to high mountain valleys and open windswept steppes. The wolf made its home in an astonishing range of lands, wherever there were large grazing animals to hunt and space enough to roam. The wolf found a way to live, and in each of these places the wolf took on a slightly different form. In the high Arctic, wolves grew pale, their coats turning nearly white to match the endless snow, and they learned to endure a cold and a darkness that few creatures could survive. In the great forests, wolves ran grey and brown and black beneath the trees. Wolves of the far north tend to be larger and heavier, better able to hold their heat and to bring down the enormous prey of those lands. Wolves of warmer country tend to be smaller and lighter, but everywhere, beneath these differences, the same animal lives the same slow social life, the same family bonds, the same howls in the night, the same blind pups born each spring into the same warm, dark dens. The colours of wolves are themselves a quiet pleasure to consider. We imagine the wolf as grey, and many are a soft mingling of grey, and tan, and cream, and black, across the back and sides, paler beneath. But wolves come in many colours. Some are nearly pure white, the wolves of the high north. Some are deep black, from nose to tail. Some are reddish, some almost golden, some a soft, silvery pewter, and many are a rich blend of several shades at once, darker along the spine, lighter at the legs and belly, with a pale mask around the eyes and muzzle. No two wolves are coloured exactly alike. Within a single family, you may find a black wolf and a grey wolf and a nearly white wolf, all travelling together, all brothers and sisters, all the same beneath their different coats. Their eyes, too, are worth a moment. A wolf's eyes are most often a warm gold, or amber, or pale yellow, and there is a stillness in them, a steady, watchful calm that many people find they cannot look away from. Behind the eyes lies a special reflective layer, the same layer that makes a dog's or a cat's eyes shine in a beam of light. And it is this that lets the wolf see so well in the dark, gathering the faint light of the moon and stars and reflecting it back through the eye a second time. This mirror at the back of the eye lets the wolf move surely through a night that would leave us stumbling and blind. The wolf is at home. In the dark, the long night is its country. Consider, too, the simple fact of how a wolf moves. There is a particular grace to it, an economy, a quiet efficiency in every step. When a wolf walks, its back feet step almost exactly into the prints left by its front feet, a smooth, gliding gait that wastes no motion and makes almost no sound. A wolf can pass through a forest so quietly that it seems to appear and vanish like a thought, and when it wishes to travel far, it drops into that steady trot, the travelling pace, neither fast nor slow, that it can hold for hour upon hour, mile upon mile, through the whole of a long night. Nothing about a wolf is wasted. It is built entirely for the long, slow, patient business of living across a vast and demanding land. And it lives that life always within the warmth of the family. This is the thing to hold on to, the thing that so surprises people when they first learn it. The wolf is not a lonely killer prowling the dark. The wolf is one of the most deeply social animals on earth, bound to its family by ties of affection and cooperation and care that last for years. Wolves grieve when a member of the pack is lost. They have been seen returning again and again to a place where a companion died, calling, waiting, restless and subdued for days afterward. They celebrate reunions with unmistakable joy. They share their food. They raise one another's young. They sing together in the dark for the simple pleasure of the shared song. In all these things, they are far closer to us than the old, frightening stories ever allowed. Perhaps that is why the wolf has always haunted the human imagination so deeply, why it appears again and again in our oldest stories and our dreams. For thousands of years, people and wolves shared the same lands, hunted the same animals, walked the same trails through the same forests and across the same plains. We knew the wolf as a rival sometimes and feared it, but we knew it also as something like a mirror, a fellow hunter, a family creature, a singer in the dark, an animal that lived as we lived, in families, by cooperation. across great distances, beneath the same cold stars. And out of that long shared history came, in time, the most remarkable thing of all. For the dog that sleeps beside us, the dog curled at the foot of the bed, the dog that greets us at the door with the same low, wagging joy a wolf shows its returning family, is itself a wolf, changed slowly over the ages, the wild brought gently in to the fire. Every dog that has ever lived carries the wolf inside it. The greeting, the play, bow, the circling before it lies, down to sleep, the deep pull toward its family. All of it is the wolf, still there, still living quietly among us. Return with me now to the hunt and watch it more closely, for there is a slow patience in it that the old stories never told. A wolf pack does not fall upon its prey in a sudden frenzy. It works instead like water wearing at stone, testing, waiting, giving way, returning. When the pack comes upon a herd of elk or a scattering of deer, the wolves do not charge. They approach at a walk or a slow trot in the open, where the grazing animals can see them plainly, and the herd, seeing them, grows alert. And often the whole business begins with nothing more than a long shared look across the snow, the wolves reading the herd reading the wolves. What the wolves are looking for in that long look is a sign, a limp, a labored breath, an animal that holds its head a little too low or lags a little behind, or carries the winter thinness a little too far. The old and the sick and the very young give themselves away in small ways, and the wolves, who have watched 10,000 herds, know how to read them. When the pack finds the animal it wants, it moves, and the chase begins. And the chase is a test of endurance more than of speed. A healthy elk can outrun a wolf, but it cannot always outlast one. The wolves run in relay, pressing the animal, falling back, pressing again. And if the animal they have chosen is truly weak, its strength fails before theirs does, and the hunt ends. If it does not, if the animal proves strong, after all, the wolves let it go and turn away and begin again. Most hunts end this way, in the herd, bounding off unharmed. The wolf lives with failure as its constant companion and takes it calmly and tries again another night. And when a hunt does succeed, the whole family is fed, and fed well, for the great grazing animals are large, and a single one can feed a pack for days. The wolves eat their fill, and then they rest heavily, sleeping off the meal, and then they eat again until little is left. A wolf can eat an enormous amount at a single sitting, gorging when food is plentiful, because it never knows how long the lean stretch before the next kill may be. This is the wolf's answer to a hard and uncertain life. Feast when there is a feast. Sleep deeply. Travel light between meals. Waste nothing. It is a rhythm of plenty and patience, of gorging and then long quiet fasting that has carried wolves through winters, beyond counting. But wolves do not live on great prey alone. When the deep snows melt and the world grows green and generous, the wolf's diet opens and softens. In summer, wolves eat a great many smaller things. They hunt mice and voles, pouncing on them in the grass with a high arching leap, the same leap a fox makes, front paws pinning the small creature beneath the fur. They catch hares and ground squirrels and the young of larger animals. They dig for burrowing things, and in a detail that surprises many people, they eat fruit. In late summer, wolves will graze on berries, on blueberries and other wild fruits, their muzzles stained purple, feeding almost like bears among the low bushes. On a warm afternoon, the fierce hunter of the winter herds spends its summer days, in part, quietly eating berries in the sun. There are wolves, too, who live by the sea, and their lives are stranger and gentler than most people would ever guess. Along certain cold northern coasts, where the forest meets the ocean, there live wolves who have turned much of their hunting toward the water. They walk the tide line at low water, turning over stones to find crabs and other small creatures. They wade into the shallows. They eat mussels and clams and whatever the sea leaves behind. And when the salmon come in their great autumn runs, crowding up the rivers to spawn. These coastal wolves wade into the streams and catch them, feeding on the rich pink flesh, growing fat for the winter, on the bounty of the sea. These wolves swim easily between islands, crossing wide stretches of cold salt water, moving through a world of fog and tide and dark evergreen forest. That could hardly be more different from the snowbound plains we usually imagine when we think of wolves, and yet they are the same animal, living the same family life, following the same slow rhythms, only turned toward the sea instead of the snow. For a wolf is a strong and willing swimmer. It takes to water without fear, paddling across rivers and lakes and channels, its thick coat holding warmth even in cold water, its wide paws pulling it steadily along. A pack will cross a river together in the course of its travels, as easily as it crosses a meadow, the wolves swimming in a loose line, shaking off the water on the far bank and trotting on. Water is no barrier to a wolf. Very little is. The animal is built to go wherever it must, over land or water, through snow or summer heat, across whatever the great landscape places in its path. Let us think, too, about how wolves speak to one another, for their conversation is far richer than the howl alone. A wolf's whole body is a kind of language, and wolves read one another constantly in the set of the ears, the carriage of the tail, the tension of the face, the way the body is held. A confident wolf stands tall, its ears up and forward, its tail held level or high. A wolf that wishes to show friendliness or deference lowers its body, flattens its ears softly back, tucks its tail, and may crouch and lick at the mouth of the other. The same gentle gesture the pups use to beg for food. A playful wolf drops into the bow, front legs down, back end up, tail wagging, an invitation to a game. Every shift of posture carries meaning, and within the pack, these signals flow back and forth all day long. A quiet, constant conversation that keeps the peace and holds the family in its shape. Their faces speak, too. Wolves have expressive faces, marked often with pale and dark patterning. That makes each small movement easy to read. The lip lips, the eyes, the ears, all working together. A slight lift of the lip, a narrowing of the eyes, a turn of the ears can say more between two wolves than a whole night of howling. And most of this language is used not to threaten, but to smooth things over, to reassure, to apologize, to keep the small frictions of daily family life from ever hardening into real conflict. Wolves work hard to get along. A pack that fought within itself would soon fall apart, and a wolf alone is a wolf in danger. So the whole rich language of posture and expression bends, in the end, toward peace and togetherness, and near the wolves, almost always, are the ravens. There is an old and curious friendship between wolves and ravens, so old and so close that in some northern languages the raven is called the wolf bird. Ravens follow wolves across the land. They fly ahead of a traveling pack and wait in the trees. They gather at a hunt and feed on what the wolves leave behind, and in return, it is thought their sharp eyes and their calls from above may sometimes lead the wolves toward prey or toward the bodies of animals already dead. Ravens have been seen to play with wolves, diving at them, tweaking their tails, pulling at them, dancing just out of reach, and the wolves seem to tolerate and even enjoy the game. Where there are wolves, there are ravens, wheeling and calling above the pack, following the hunters through the winter woods. Two clever and social creatures whose lives have been braided together since long before any human watched them. Consider now the pups again, and how swiftly they travel the road, from helplessness to strength. A newborn wolf weighs about a pound, no more than a small loaf of bread, blind and deaf and unable even to keep itself warm. Within 2 weeks, its eyes have opened onto the dim light of the den. Within 3, it has walked out into the sun. By the time summer is high, the pups are romping through the meadows. And by autumn, they are nearly the size of their parents. In a single turning of the year, the wolf grows from a blind scrap of life in the dark to a traveler crossing the winter country with the pack. Few creatures grow so far, so fast, and through all of it, The family carries the young along, feeding them, teaching them, guarding them, until the day the grown pup is ready to travel and hunt and, in time, to leave. The eyes of the pups, when they first open, are blue, a soft, cloudy blue like the winter sky at dawn, and then, over the weeks that follow, the blue slowly gives way, warming and deepening, until by the pup's first autumn its eyes have turned to the gold and amber of the grown wolf. It is a small, quiet change, easy to miss, but there is something lovely in it, in the blue eyes of the young wolf slowly kindling into gold as the pup grows into itself and the wide world comes clear. We should say a word, too, about the moon, since the wolf and the moon have been joined together in our imagination for so long. We picture the wolf on a hilltop, its head thrown back, howling up at the full moon. And it is a beautiful picture, but it is not quite true. Wolves do not howl at the moon. They howl at night because the night is when they are most awake and most active, and because sound carries far in the cool, still air after dark, and because that is when the pack travels and scatters and needs to call itself back together. When a wolf howls, it does not point its nose at the moon, but simply lifts its head, tilting the muzzle upward, because that shape helps the sound carry far and clear across the land. The moon is only there in the sky on the same nights the wolves are singing, a witness and not a cause, and yet the picture endures, the wolf and the moon together, because there is a truth beneath it, a truth about the wildness of the night and the loneliness and beauty of that long rising voice in the dark. Think of the far north too, and the wolves who live at the very top of the world, there on the frozen islands and barren grounds of the high Arctic. Wolves, the color of the snow itself, live through a winter darkness that lasts for months, when the sun does not rise at all, and the only light is the moon and the stars and the great shifting curtains of green and violet that hang and ripple across the polar sky. These white wolves hunt musk oxen and Arctic hares across a landscape of ice and stone and endless snow, ranging over enormous distances in the cold and the dark, and they endure it all wrapped in their deep, pale coats, curled together against the wind, waiting out the long night of the year. And then, in the endless summer day, when the sun never sets and the tundra bursts briefly into flower, they raise their pups in the constant light, hunting around the clock beneath a sun that only circles the sky and never falls below the edge of the world. There are few harder places to live and few more beautiful, and the white wolves have made their slow, quiet home there for longer than we can easily imagine. A wolf's life out in all these wild places is not a long one. In the wild, a wolf that survives the dangers of its first year may live perhaps 6 or 8 years, sometimes more, rarely into its teens. It is a hard life and a demanding one, lived at the edge of hunger and cold and effort, but it is also, in its way, a full and rich life, spent almost always in the company of family, moving through country of great beauty, singing in the dark, raising the young, following the ancient rhythms of the seasons. And when a wolf grows old, the family does not abandon it. The old wolf travels with the pack as long as it can, sharing in the food the younger hunters bring. Down, held within the warmth of the family it helped to make, until the end. There is a kindness in that, a loyalty that we would do well to admire. And so the seasons turn, and the wolves turn with them through the deep, cold, and the brief, green summer, and back again into the snow. The pups are born and grow, and travel, and at last disperse to found new families of their own. The old wolves fade, and the young take their places. The howls rise night after night across the great northern lands, the same long rising voices that have sounded there for tens of thousands of years and will sound there still, we can hope, long after this night is over. The wolf endures, patient and social and gentle, among its own, one of the oldest and most faithful families in all the living world. it is worth pausing to on the sheer physical fact of the wolf, the body that carries it through all of this. The wolf is the largest of all the wild dogs, larger than the coyote, larger than the jackal, larger than the fox. A tall and long-legged animal that can stand as high as a person's waist and, in the great northern forms, weigh well over 100 pounds. But that weight is deceiving, for the wolf is not heavy, so much as long and deep and lean, built like a long-distance runner, all chest and leg and reach. Its narrow body slips easily between the trees. Its long legs eat up the miles. Its great chest houses the large heart and lungs that let it travel so far without tiring. Nothing about the wolf is built for a single burst of power. Everything about it is built for the long, slow, patient crossing of enormous distances, night after night, season after season. Its jaws are strong enough to crack the heavy bones of the animals it eats and reach the rich marrow inside. And this is part of how a wolf wastes nothing, taking not only the meat, but the very bones of a kill, cracking them for the last of their goodness. And yet, those same powerful jaws carry the pups with the utmost gentleness, lifting a squirming newborn by the loose skin of its neck to move it softly, without the smallest harm, from one place to another. The mouth that can break a bone can cradle a pup. There is the whole wolf in that, the strength and the tenderness held together in a single animal. And behind the body is a mind, quick and curious and deep. Wolves are intelligent animals, and much of that intelligence goes into the great work of holding a landscape in memory. A wolf knows its territory the way we know the rooms of our homes, every trail and crossing and thicket and slope where the herds move in each season, where the rivers can be crossed, where the wind carries scent, and where it does not. It carries this vast map in its head, built up over years, and it uses it constantly, choosing its routes, planning its travels, remembering where food was found. Before, wolves solve problems. They learn, They adapt their ways to new country and new circumstances, and they pass this knowledge down, in a sense, from the parents to the pups, who learn the map of the territory by traveling it again and again at their parents' heels until the land is written into their memory as it was written into their parents' memory before them. Watch a wolf, too, through the ordinary quiet of a single day, and you will see how much of that day is spent simply at rest. The wolf is not always traveling, not always hunting. Between its labors, it lies down and stretches out in the sun and dozes and rolls in the snow and lies down again. It naps through the bright hours and rouses toward dusk. It stretches when it rises, the way a dog stretches. Front legs long, chest low. A great, slow, luxurious stretch, and then it shakes itself from nose to tail and yawns and is ready. Much of a wolf's life is this, the deep, unhurried rest between the travels, the long lying about in the company of the family, the slow gathering of strength for the next night's work. There is a great calm in it, a great patience, an animal deeply at ease in the long stretches of quiet that make up most of any life. And wolves love to roll. A wolf will find some interesting smell on the ground and drop a shoulder and rub itself along the earth with evident pleasure, twisting onto its back, wriggling, carrying the scent away in its fur. They roll in the snow simply for the joy of it, kicking their legs in the air, sliding down slopes, rising to shake off the powder and roll again. There is a playfulness in the wolf, a capacity for simple pleasure that sits oddly beside its fierce reputation and yet is entirely real. The same animal that crosses 100 miles of winter wilderness will, given a soft bank of fresh snow, flop down and roll in it like a happy dog. When the long winter finally loosens its grip and the world begins to warm, the wolf sheds its heavy coat, the thick underfur that carried it. Through the cold comes loose in great soft clumps, and for a few untidy weeks the wolf looks ragged and patchy as the winter coat falls away and the lighter summer coat comes in beneath it. The wolves rub against trees and roll on the ground to help the loose fur come free, and the wind carries it off in tufts to line the nests of birds. By high summer, the wolf is sleek and light, dressed for the warm months, and then, as the days shorten again, and the first cold nights return, the great coat grows back, thick and deep and ready, and the wolf is armoured once more against the coming winter. Twice a year the wolf changes its clothing, shedding the old season and dressing for the new in time with the slow turning of the light. A pack, too, is not always the same size, and there is a gentle variety in wolf families across the wild. Some packs are large, a dozen animals or more, parents and yearlings and pups all travelling together in a long line through the snow. Others are small, only a pair and their pups of the year, or even just two wolves who have found each other and not yet raised any young. The size of a family shifts with the seasons and the years, growing as pups are born, shrinking as the grown young disperse to seek their own land, and many packs return, year after year, to the same denning grounds, the same quiet hillside above the same river. So that generation after generation of pups is born into the same small stretch of country, the same dens dug and used and dug again, a home place held in the family's memory. Across the turning of many years, the howl may be the wolf's great voice, but it is far from its only one. Within the family most of the day, the wolves speak in far softer sounds. They whimper and whine, high and gentle, in greeting and in affection. The small, warm sounds a dog makes at the door. They make a soft, moaning croon over the pups. They yip and squeak in play. A mother in the den murmurs quietly to her newborns in sounds almost too low to hear. And when a wolf wishes to warn, to keep another at a distance, to settle a small quarrel over food, it growls low in the chest, a sound that rarely leads to any real fight, but simply marks a boundary. This is mine. Keep back, and is usually heeded at once. Wolves even bark, though not as dogs do. A wolf's bark is short and rough, an alarm, a sudden sound of warning that startles the pack to attention. when something is not right. All day, beneath the great silence of the wild, the family fills the air around itself with these soft sounds, whimpers and whines and croons and low growls, a quiet running conversation that holds it together as surely as the howl calls it home across the dark. And there is a particular beauty in the way a howl travels and returns. A wolf sends its voice out across the frozen land, and the sound rolls away over the hills and strikes the far ridges and comes back changed, an echo trailing the first note, so that even a single wolf can seem in the folding hills of the night to be answered by ghosts of its own voice when the whole pack sings and the echoes multiply. The sound becomes vast and strange and beautiful beyond the small number of throats that make it, filling the whole valley, rising and falling, and then dying slowly away into a silence that seems afterward even deeper than before, to stand in the winter dark and hear it is to feel something very old stir in the chest, older than words, a call and an answer passing between the wild and some wild part of ourselves. Then the singing ends, and the great quiet of the winter forest settles back over everything. And that quiet is itself a kind of country the wolves inhabit, out in the deep wild, far from any road. The silence on a still winter night is almost total, broken only by the small sounds of the wolves themselves, the crunch of a paw in the snow, a soft breath, the creak of a branch under its weight of frost. Into that great stillness the wolves move, like part of the stillness itself, quiet and patient and unhurried. And when they lie down to rest, the silence closes over them, and there is nothing at all, only the snow and the trees and the sleeping family and the enormous quiet of the northern night. But tonight, the wolves are far away, out in the wild country, where they have always been, and we are only visiting, only following their tracks a little way into the snow before we turn back towards sleep. So let us follow them one last time out into the winter night and watch them settle down to rest. The short grey day is ending, The pack has travelled since dusk of the night before, and now, as the light begins to fail again, they slow and stop in a sheltered place among the trees where the wind cannot reach them. One by one, they scratch their shallow beds in the snow. One by one, they turn and turn again and curl down, nose to tail, into the small, warm circles of sleep. The mother and the father lie close together. The young ones, half grown now, curl nearby, near enough to touch. Their breathing slows. The snow begins to fall. Softly, out of the darkening sky, settling on their thick fur, without melting, dusting the whole sleeping pack in white. The forest around them grows still. The last light drains from the sky. Somewhere far off, at the edge of hearing, another pack begins to sing, and one of the sleeping wolves stirs and lifts its head and listens for a moment to the distant voices carried on the cold air, and then lays its head back, down, reassured, and closes its eyes. The snow falls. The wolves sleep. Across the vast white country, the families lie curled in their circles, warm against the cold, safe among their own, resting through the long, dark hours until the pale return of dawn. The old fear we once felt toward them softens out here in the quiet into something more like tenderness. They are only families after all. Only parents and children sleeping in the snow, waiting for spring when the pups will be born again in the warm, dark earth, and the slow, gentle circle of the wolf's life will begin once more. And now the night deepens. The wind has died. The trees stand black and still against the last grey light, and then the light is gone, and there is only the dark and the snow and the soft sound of it falling. The wolves are sleeping now. Their breath rises slowly into the cold. The distant singing has faded into silence. There is nothing left but the falling snow and the sleeping family and the great quiet forest holding them gently through the night. Rest now. Let the mind wander out across the white valleys, past the black trees, to where the pack lies sleeping in the snow. Let it grow quiet there, and warm and still. The wolves have shown us how. Curl close, keep warm, let the day go, let the snow fall, let the night come down soft and dark and deep over the sleeping world. Rest now and drift out where the wolves are sleeping, snow on the fur, breath rising slow, the long night, the quiet dark, sleep.